The Pats have not won the AFC East since 2019, and the Bills do not plan on making it easy on them to win it this Sunday. This is a crossover edition of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening? I'm your host, Nick Cattles of Locked On Patriots, along with the host of Locked On Bills, Joe Marino, for the latest edition of our Locked On crossovers for the 2025 season. And of course, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. On today's crossover, in the third segment, we'll each look at 3 keys that could decide the division on Sunday. Also, we'll break down the matchups that could help the Bills reshape the recent conference playoff conversation. But first, there are so many stories heading into Sunday with these two teams. We try our best to pick the biggest from each side. Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Joe, we got a lot to get to, my man. What's the biggest storyline in Buffalo this week after the Bills beat Joe Burrow in Cincinnati last weekend?
Yeah, I think it's about building off of that performance, one that you feel like can really galvanize a football team for a big stretch run that obviously has a lot at stake. Of course, this Sunday, playing the Patriots, and we know what's at stake. The Patriots win this thing. They end the Bills' 5-year reign on top of this division. And, of course, as you mentioned, Bills don't want that to happen. And maybe it's going to happen, Nick, but for the Bills, just not Sunday, right? Not in Foxborough. Not like that. I think that's kind of the emphasis. But obviously, Josh Allen had a huge game against the Bengals as the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. The defense certainly gave up some production against Cincinnati, but came away with the big plays that are kind of the hallmark of this defense and have continuously showed up for them. And so how do you build off of that and go into New England and avoid what's at stake for New England to happen? And I think there's a lot for them to correct from the early season loss where they made a ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
And obviously was a big launch point, I think, for New England in their season. And so it's about an opportunity, I think, is the big word that I'm looking for here.
Yeah, the Christian Bedford pick 6 was bananas. It was just a fantastic play by him. I wonder, before I get into my thoughts about the biggest story for the Patriots on their side, I would agree with you. Obviously, the vibes, quote unquote, are much different if you lose the division inside the stadium and you're watching it play out. That would be something that I'm sure Buffalo does not want to go through. I'm kind of interested to get your point of view and Buffalo's point of view about that game in week 5. Is it looked at as, hey, look, Bills just didn't play well enough? The Patriots are not necessarily as scary as some people are maybe making them out to be? Or do you think the Bills, do you think fans, even yourself, do you look at the Patriots and say, no, this is a legitimate team. The schedule stuff is the schedule stuff. They're good enough to win again?
I think you could probably get a lot of different answers from quote unquote Bills people to that. So I can only answer it for myself. And I'll say this. I look back at, is it week 4, week 5, whenever that was?
Week 5.
And I just think about mistakes. 3 giveaways. They fumbled on their first 2 drives.
Yeah.
And they had crippling penalties as well, 11 penalties for 90 yards. And I'm not saying that the Bills are above that happening again, but those feel like very uncharacteristic things for the Buffalo Bills. And so I don't think they will put themselves in those positions again. As far as my perception of the New England Patriots, Nick, I go back to our conversation back then. I think Drake Maye is awesome. I think Drake Maye is probably number 2 in the MVP conversation right now behind Matthew Stafford. I think it's a 4-person race between Stafford at number 1, Drake Maye, who I think is comfortably number 2. I think Josh Allen has kind of entered the chat. Jordan Love's in the conversation as well. And I think that's what's going to be sorted out over the last 4 weeks of the season. I think the world of Drake Maye. And I know that Bills Mafia doesn't want to hear that, but I'm not going to pretend like he's not an awesome player.
Right.
The only thing I don't like about him is that he plays for the Patriots. The skill set is outstanding. The human being seems awesome. The personality, the way he's endearing himself to the fan base and to his team is incredible. And so I'm in on Drake Maye. I am not going to diminish the results of the New England Patriots. They're in contention for the number 1 seed for a reason. They keep stacking wins. And while you can point to the schedule, and look, I think it's fair to say they have taken advantage of the last place schedule.
Right.
But at the same time, when they've had opportunities to blow it, they don't. And they've been there, right? Against the Saints, against the Bengals. Was it the Falcons game? Against the Bills. They've had chances to blow it, and they don't. And that's a sign of a good team. And so you're not going to catch me diminishing Drake Maye. You're not going to catch me diminishing the New England Patriots. I think they're a really good operation. And if I'm a Patriots fan, I got to be really excited about where this thing's headed.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment, Joe, from you, and I don't expect anything less. I would also say, your feelings towards Drake Maye, very similar to my feelings towards Josh Allen. I wish he was not a Buffalo Bill, but man, oh man, it's crazy to not respect that guy and understand that he is one of the best doing it today. I asked you that question because I honestly think the story for me for this game for the Patriots is the opportunity to prove that week 5 was not a fluke, right? Buffalo, some people might look at it and say Buffalo might have played with their food a little bit, especially early on in that game. You mentioned the 3 turnovers, the -2 in turnover differential in that game. 1 turnover was at the 50-yard line. Another turnover was that terrible pick and decision by Josh Allen at the New England 19-yard line. So you had chances to arguably score twice, and you turned it over, and that's not something that the Buffalo Bills do very often. The Patriots, meanwhile, they've only forced 14 takeaways in their first 13 games. So the idea of creating 3 turnovers is very, very unlikely to happen again. And I've got to feel like the Patriots, they have a point to prove. And I would imagine, yes, they beat them in week 5, but even Vegas is telling us Buffalo is the favorite this weekend at Gillette in Foxborough. And the Patriots and Mike Vrabel were asked about that during Wednesday's press conferences. They are well aware of it. So I just feel like the Patriots, even though they won earlier in the year, and even though it was on national television, Sunday Night Football, I still feel like they go into Sunday feeling like we're the underdogs. And we need to prove that week 5 wasn't just, a nice little fluky win. No, we can go out there and beat Josh Allen and the Bills twice in the same season.
I bet Mike Vrabel wouldn't have it any other way. When I saw those opening lines come out of FanDuel and I saw the Bills -1.5, I said, oh boy, Mike Vrabel's got to love this coming out of the bye, obviously with what's at stake to be considered the underdogs in the football game is pretty interesting to me. And certainly something I'm sure that is going to rally that Patriots team for an inspired effort for a game that already has a lot of magnitude to it.
Yeah, and Mike Vrabel's messaging has been clear. It's been significant this week, talking about the opportunity to win a championship this weekend. He is not running away from the challenge. He is not running away from the opportunity. He is making sure that his players are embracing the stakes on Sunday, which I find to be the right message from the head coach yet again. Mike Vrabel has consistently done that all year long, and I feel like he's striking the right chord again with these guys. And Christian Gonzalez said in the locker room today that, when Mike Vrabel, the first meeting they had, he walked in and said, we're going to win this division. So he might have been talking differently in the public, but when he was talking to his team at the very beginning of this process, he told them he believed that they can win this division. So if they go out there on Sunday and they actually do that, week 15, I don't think anybody thought the Patriots would be here, week 15, with a chance to win the division. If they do that, it's even more credibility and trust built within Mike Vrabel from his players. All right, the Pats need one of their young blue chip players to step up this weekend. We'll discuss that and more marquee matchups next as we continue with this crossover episode of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Bills. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, it's fast, it's available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And creating a lineup takes less than 1 minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. And the early payout feature, it's a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you may get the option to cash out early. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, the code is Locked On NFL. Use that code to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today. Get Locked On Patriots, Locked On Bills with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month, or get a little bit of a deal, $50 for the year. Go to lockedonpatriots.supercast.com or lockedonbills.supercast.com, or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And don't forget, as you watch this, whether it's Locked On Bills, Locked On Patriots, you're watching on YouTube, help a couple brothers out. Help us out. Don't forget to click that thumbs up. Give us the like. Don't forget to throw a comment in. Bills fans, tell Patriots fans why they're wrong and the Patriots are going to lose. Patriots fans, do the same to the Bills fans. Keep it peaceful, but like, comment, and subscribe. All right, Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. I am, of course, Nick Cattles from Locked On Patriots. Let's talk marquee matchups, my friend. What's your first marquee matchup, Joe?
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot about the Bills rushing offense against the Patriots rushing defense that has shown a little bit of vulnerability of late. Now, I will say, if you go back to that earlier meeting, I thought the Patriots did the best job of any team this year at defending the Bills' traditional run offense. Of course, Josh Allen had some scrambles, but I'm talking about James Cook.
Yeah.
And I think the ability of Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis to fit the run and play the run, they did a really good job how they slow play. And, you know, James Cook, kind of the hallmark of his game is cutback runs and spill runs. And when you have corners like Davis and Gonzalez that are big, they're physical, they're long, and they tackle, you know, it can take away some of that. And so I'm very curious to see what the Bills have cooked up in this type of game, where I think the rushing offense is going to be really, really important. We mentioned some of the vulnerability that the Patriots have had defending the run. Over the last 4 games, they've allowed a 69% success rate on zone runs and 6 yards per carry. Those are both the highest marks in the NFL. They also have the lowest stuff rate in the NFL over the last 4 games that they played. I know that the bye week, but the last 4 games that the Patriots have played.
Right.
And so I think the Bills have got to find ways to maybe take advantage of that. I know that no Milton Williams has kind of hurt the run defense a bit. And so can the Bills run the ball really well, which they typically do, not necessarily in the Patriots game earlier this year, but can they correct that this time around and get some production on the ground?
Look, nail on the head from you. I mean, the Patriots' run defense was the best in football, I would argue, through the first 9 weeks of the season. There's no doubt they have tailed off a little bit. Injuries are a part of that. Milton Williams, you mentioned, but also another guy is Kyrie's Tonga. He's missed pretty much close to the last 2 games. He got hurt very, very early on a few weeks ago, missed the next game, which was against the Giants. So, you know, he gets hurt in that Cincy game. He misses 3.5 quarters of that game, then misses the Giants game. And Kyrie's Tonga really has been their 3rd best interior defensive lineman. He has been arguably the best interior defensive lineman against the run. So part of that is injury. Kyrie's Tonga back at practice on Wednesday. He looked limited during Monday's bonus practice, quote unquote, after the bye week. Feels like Kyrie's Tonga probably is back this week. I'm not sure if he will play as much as he did before the injury. We'll see. Milton Williams, of course, he's on IR. He will not be back. That's a big reason why I'm looking at Christian Barmore. And I think Christian Barmore against this interior offensive line of the Buffalo Bills. I was watching the Bills-Bengals game. I actually watched the game twice. I watched the game at my buddy's house over a couple of beers on Sunday. The pleasure of a bye week, Joe. Mm-hmm. And then I actually followed that up on Monday and watched the all-22 of the game. And Connor McGovern was moving people in the run game. And I think, you know, his ability, Christian Barmore has to win some of those matchups. He's got to win against the interior offensive line, because if Christian Barmore is not going, then this defensive line is going to have some issues. Without Milton Williams, with Christian Barmore not making an impact, which he needs to do, and he has just not consistently over the past month or so. The Patriots need more Christian Barmore impact plays without Milton Williams. Harold Landry has been playing hurt since the Tennessee game. He got rolled up on. He has not been the same guy after the first month of the season or so. Caleb Chason is going to shatter the most snaps he's ever played in a season at the NFL level. So I feel like he's getting a little bit tired. Hopefully the bye week helped both Harold Landry and Caleb Chason, but Christian Barmore cannot be quiet on Sunday. Matchup number 2 for you, Joe.
Well, speaking of things that have been quiet, it's the Bills' pass rush. It's been extremely quiet of late. I mean, arguably over the last 4 weeks, the worst in the NFL. And whatever metric you want to point to, they're like bottom 2, 3 in the league: pressure rate, sack percentage, time to pressure. It's not very good. And if there's a wart left for Drake Maye, the young 23-year-old quarterback that's making a case to be the NFL MVP this year, it's that he does take sacks, right?
Yeah.
21 sacks, according to the Fantasy Points data suite, that are charged to Drake Maye as being his fault. That's 6 more than any other quarterback, and he's pressured 44% of dropbacks. That's the highest pressure rate in the NFL. Can the Bills make this matter? You know, their pass rush is ice cold. Looks like they could get Joey Bosa back this week. He missed last week with a hamstring. He's been battling through a wrist injury. They're going to need him. They're going to need him in a big way, because without him, boy, they just really struggle to get any type of pressure. Also, Drake Maye, a phenomenal scrambler, second most scrambles so far this year, fourth most scramble yards. And when the Bills play athletic quarterbacks, they didn't do this in the first matchup, but they played this gauntlet of Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes. And even in the playoffs at times, when they go against athletic quarterbacks, they'll play a spy mirror player and rush 3, but then they'll have a linebacker leveraged over top. And that linebacker leveraged over top is a guy that's supposed to mirror and spy the quarterback, but it also gives the 3 that you rush complete freedom to rush however they want to. You know, you talk about pass rush lanes and cage rushing and those types of things to keep a quarterback in the pocket. When you give those guys that freedom to just kind of go where they want to with the spy player over top, I'm guessing the Bills will kind of break that out in a high stakes game against Drake Maye. And they're going to need to. They're going to got to figure out ways to get pressure on this quarterback, because it is a pass rush that's been ice cold of late.
Yeah, I will say Drake Maye, as far as the sacks go, he's been sacked 40 times. You mentioned the 21 on him. There's no doubt that especially in the first half of the season, he was struggling with that. He would bail when pressure was not there. He would run into sacks, so to speak, from time to time. It was an issue, and it was especially an issue during a stretch where, you know, he took 4 sacks against the Buffalo Bills, was better against the Saints, but then against Tennessee, he had 4 sacks taken. And then back-to-back weeks, he was sacked 6 times by the Browns and the Falcons. But since then, I will tell you, Joe, he has done a much better job of handling the pocket manipulation, pocket poise, the presence he has. He's done a much, much better job. The Giants, there was only 1 or 2 times where I thought that he might have bailed a little bit early, and given their pass rush and their talent on that defensive line, I think that's a pretty good performance from him. The weeks before that, you know, he had 3 straight weeks where he only took 1 sack, and he's been much, much better. You go back to that Falcons game where it was a little bit messy. He's been much better in that category. So I would hope that he continues to improve and not show himself to, you know, give up those 1 or 2 yard sacks. A lot of these sacks, by the way, are 1 yard, 2 yards. It's a very strange thing where you don't have a lot of 8 yard, 10 yard sacks. And a lot of those are on the quarterback. Some of them are also on Travion Henderson, where he's been hot and cold in pass protection. And I look at the second marquee matchup, Joe, you're thinking somewhat what I'm thinking here, and it's Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson back at practice this week, had a high ankle sprain. Of course, the Cincinnati game, when Will Campbell goes out, Jared Wilson goes out. The Patriots lose their left tackle and left guard in the same game. Of course, Wilson did not play against the Giants. But I will tell you that Vidarian Lowe was pretty good, all things considered, against Abdul Carter when he got into the game after being suspended for the first quarter, whatever happened there. And I would also say Ben Brown, the backup left guard, did pretty good. The offensive line had their best game, I think, of the season against the New York Giants defense. But Jared Wilson is expected to be back, and I would think he's going to start at left guard again. And this Buffalo Bills defensive line, they're big. They got some big dudes. You know, Daquan Jones, no joke. Deion Walker's no joke. And I know Walker's been a little inconsistent, but I saw Daquan Jones have a heck of a half against Cincinnati last weekend. So with Jared Wilson returning, bigger interior defensive linemen sometimes can give him fits. Same for Garrett Bradbury, who's not the biggest center in the world. So they've got to make sure that they take care of the interior defensive line and not allow that pressure from the inside to get to Drake Maye, and allow Drake Maye some time to find some open receivers, which will lead me to my third marquee matchup. But I'm not going to get there first. You're going to get there first. Your third marquee matchup, Joe.
Well, I think it's about the Bills and how they can incorporate running backs and tight ends into their passing offense. I keep forgetting it's week 4 or 5. The earlier season matchup,
Week 5.
Dalton Kincaid had a heck of a game. 6 catches on 6 targets for 108 yards. He's back and healthy. Dawson Knox had a huge game last week against Cincinnati. The third tight end, Jackson Hawes, caught a touchdown. They can get all 3 of these guys going in meaningful ways, and they're going to need to, in addition to their running backs, James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, all guys that can catch the football. And look, I know that this is probably more of a product of what New England has on the outside at corner and Davis and Gonzalez, but New England has given up the 4th most catches to running backs in the NFL and the 7th most catches to tight ends. Again, probably more about their corners, but here's the reality. The Bills don't really have receiving talent that's going to be able to challenge those corners. And so lean into what you have, which is backs and tight ends that can catch a football against a part of the Patriots where there's been some opportunities to get some production.
Yeah, you mentioned those corners. I'm looking at the Bills corners. Christian Benford, Patriots wide receivers versus cornerbacks that are not named Christian Benford. I want to see if they can win those matchups. If you can win consistently against Tre'Davious White and Maxwell Hairston, who I thought, had some good reps last weekend, had some not so great reps last weekend. Cam Lewis had a little bit of a tough time against Cincinnati. So if you can find these matchups, and Josh McDaniels is great at doing that. One of the matchups within the matchup is Stephon Diggs and how the Patriots will utilize him after his big week in week 5. He's been mostly quiet for the last few weeks. I don't think that's a Stephon Diggs issue. I think that's more of how the Patriots run their offense. But, these cornerbacks, I think the Patriots, if they can win, and they don't have to win consistently all day long, but if they can win some of those matchups, now you talk about the tight ends and the running backs in the pass game for the Patriots getting a little bit more space. So it'll be interesting to see how the Buffalo Bills deploy Christian Benford. I know they've been playing him more man coverage and looking at, the best receiver on the other side. I wonder if that's going to be the case again on Sunday against Stephon Diggs. But the Patriots have to win at least a few times at receiver and make the Buffalo Bills respect their passing game, because that will open up a lot underneath and for their sake, hopefully open up the run game. All right, coming up, our 3 keys to victory on today's crossover episode of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Bills. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars that you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way that you want. Use Car Guru's deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. The in-depth vehicle reviews helps you understand what ownership actually looks like, not just how the car looks online. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process. How great does that sound? With over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace, you will always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com. cargurus.com. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they are over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever, because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using Zocdoc makes scheduling easier. Search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. No more back and forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. It helps you stay on top of your health before something becomes a bigger problem. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments, fellas. Get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, let's get right to it. 3 keys to victory. Joe Marino, Locked On Bills. Nick Cattles, Locked On Patriots with you. Hopefully all of you have enjoyed this show as much as I have enjoyed this show. Key number 1 to victory, Joe, for the Buffalo Bills.
Limit mistakes, right? I mean, 3 turnovers. Like I said, they fumbled on the first 2 drives. Josh had that interception that put the Patriots in business. 11 penalties for 90 yards and some back-breaking ones that took away some important plays that put the Bills behind the sticks. And it's a game that, with all those mistakes, they lost by 3. And Drake Maye was unbelievable on that last drive. I mean, the drive starter, I don't know how he didn't go down. I guess that's what it's like to play against Josh Allen, right? It's just, some of what happened there. I was like, boy, this is not that fun. So I think number one is don't beat yourself. And I think Patriots fans could appreciate that as a team that for years just watch other teams beat themselves right before their eyes. And the Bills can't fall victim to that this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Patriots. Key number one is run the football. The Buffalo Bills, I don't think, are very good against the run. That has been well documented. I'll dive into that a little bit more in the deep dive preview on Friday's episode. But keep away from Josh Allen. Keep his possessions low. Attack that Bills weakness. Attack the linebackers, the front seven, and try to get your run game going. It's been a problem. I mean, I can't tell you, Joe, how many times I've mentioned this in these crossover episodes, but it's been one of the things that the Patriots have not done well in a season that they have exceeded all expectations, and that's run the ball consistently. Even against the Giants on Monday night, you go back before the bye week, in the first half, you got Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson averaging almost 6 yards a carry. They're moving the football. And then about the third quarter and half of the fourth quarter, they can't do anything in the run game. They finally got it going in the final drive with Travion Henderson against the Giants, but they have not consistently been able to run the football. Even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, where the numbers were great, really came down to 2 awesome to the house runs from Travion Henderson. Other than that, they couldn't really run the ball. So run the football. Prove, as the weather gets colder, that you are an offense that can run the football. Key number 2 for the Bills.
If I could add one thing there on the situation with the Bills' run defense, because sure. I think metrically it's been very, very poor. It has turned around significantly over the last 3 weeks, and that coincides with Shaq Thompson starting at middle linebacker over Terrell Bernard, who's been injured. Weeks 1 through 11, the Bills were 31st in rush yards per game, 31st in yards per carry, and 32nd in missed tackles forced per run. Over the last 3 games, the Bills are 3rd fewest rush yards per game, 5th fewest yards per carry, and 7th fewest missed tackles for run. And so I can't make any promises for what it's going to look like on Sunday, but it has been a lot better story to tell of late. Number 2 for me is you got to win third downs on defense. Whenever I watch the Patriots play, it's like it's a running joke in my mind where I think to myself, how's Drake Maye going to figure this third down out? And every time it just happens. It just happens over and over again. The Bills are 23rd in third down defense, and the Patriots passing offense is number 2 in EPA per snap on third downs. One of the most interesting metrics that blew my mind when I saw it this morning, courtesy of Kevin Massari, the Bills have the worst third down defense in the NFL at home at 51%. They have the best third down defense in the NFL on the road at 26%. I don't know why that makes 0 sense to me, but it's true. And hopefully that really good road defense that's good on third down shows up in Foxborough. But you got to be able to get off the field, and that's what it comes down to. The Bills collectively have had their issues getting off the field. If you watch that Bengals game, I think they converted their first 8 or 9 third downs, and that's not going to be a winning recipe on Sunday. So we got to win third downs on defense.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page here when we talk about third down. If I'm the Patriots, it's get Buffalo off the field. Buffalo, the 4th best third down offense in football. And if they continue to move the chains and they continue to drive, it's not going to be a good day at the office for the Patriots. So they've got to get Josh Allen and company off the field on third down. The Patriots, you can look at certain defensive metrics. The one thing that has been consistent all year long is they've been really good on third down. The Patriots defense is the 7th best defense on third down, and that's against good offenses. That's against bad offenses. They've just had a knack of stopping teams on third down. So I do think third down for both teams is going to be absolutely gigantic in this football game on Sunday. Your final key, Joe Marino.
Yeah, it's red zone. One of the things that I got to talk about it, right? The Patriots are coming off their bye week, right? And so that's your self-scouting. You're going to figure some stuff out. I'm sure the entire bye week, or that's probably hyperbolic, but a lot of the bye week was spent figuring out how they could be a better red zone team defensively and offensively. They entered the bye 24th in red zone offense, 32nd in red zone defense. The Bills are 9th in red zone offense, 20th in red zone defense. I'm expecting creativity. I'm expecting new stuff. And, Josh McDaniels is a great offensive mind, Mike Vrabel and company, great defensive minds. I'm sure that they have been thinking about how they can become a better team in the red zone. And the wrinkles, if there's ever a time to break them out, it's with what's at stake on Sunday. So the Bills have got to be disciplined in the red zone and be ready for some new layers to what New England has shown so far this year.
I laughed when you first mentioned it because it was my third key, the red zone. Patriots have been abominable in the red zone. Defensively, they've been atrocious. Offensively, especially leading into the bye, they have been horrific. You go back to the Cincinnati game, they had, I think, 6 snaps from the 1-yard line and could not get in the end zone. The red zone offense has been declining over the past several weeks. To the point now, as you mentioned, it's somewhere in the mid-20s. And the defense all year long, that has been a problem, their red zone defense. They have to fix their red zone efficiency because I think that's one of the things, and maybe the most critical thing that could get in the way of the Patriots making the playoff run that they hope that they can make. It's down in the red area. They've got to be much better. All right, that wraps up this crossover edition of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Bills. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel, hit that like button, and subscribe. And, of course, did Locked On Patriots or Locked On Bills make your Spotify Wrapped? We're asking you. Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only channel. That's the Discord channel I'm talking about. Have a great day, and Joe and I will see you tomorrow for our deep dive preview for a big game on Sunday.